Now, governments are stepping efforts up to regulate and tax virtual assets, just as crypto markets face renewed volatility. Bitcoin is hovering above $65,000 after a recent dip, raising fresh debate about whether it truly deserves its digital gold label. Now, concurrently, Nigeria is tightening capital requirements for exchanges and pushing for stronger oversight, while other markets are blending fintech and retail investing in new ways. So, is this a maturing market under smarter regulation, or one facing tougher headwinds in 2026? Joining me now to answer these questions and discuss in a lot more detail is Femi Adegolu, who is co-founder at TradePal AI. Femi, great to have you on the show once again.
Great to have you. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Well, let's begin with Bitcoin as we speak. It's currently hovering between $65 and $66. Well, 2 hours ago, that is. So is it really digital gold or just another high-risk asset?
For me, I think Bitcoin at 65K is not a failure. In the past 10 years, Bitcoin has outperformed every other asset class, from it being less than $1 in 2010, 2011 to today being over 65K. I think there's no other assets that has outperformed Bitcoin. So I will call it, this is my opinion though, I'll call it digital gold. And I think in the next couple of years, it's still going to do well. The past 3 days, we've had companies like MicroStrategy purchase more Bitcoin because they believe in it. And so many other global institutions are also believing in Bitcoin because they believe that it's the future. So yeah.
Right, so that's quite the outlook.
Yeah,
so no cause for alarm is what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Now, with governments beginning to tax crypto profits, does this legitimize the space or make it less attractive to investors?
For me, I think that, the fact that government is saying, I'm going to tax what you're doing means that what I'm doing is legitimate, right? It gives me the buy signal because, of course, government will not tax anything that is not legal. So for government to say, okay, we're going to tax, the crypto industry, means that whatever we're doing now becomes legal, and then we are also contributing to government revenue, right? So I think the only thing is that we are going to have much more people coming into the space because, of course, there's government legitimacy right now. Right, and that gives more investor confidence and more investor protection because we know that the government is saying that we are going to take your money and use that for social amenities and infrastructure. So I would say that in the next couple of years, it's going to become better and better, and we're going to have a much more clearer path to compliance and regulation. Yeah.
Right, but are digital asset platforms also actually prepared for stricter tax reporting and compliance rules? Okay,
so for what I think, these platforms are still trying to figure it out. We're still in the early stages, right?
What does that mean?
Okay.
Figuring what out exactly?
So now, a lot of these companies will need to invest in compliance infrastructure and get the right teams. And, those guys who do Forex, in volumes, talking about Bureau de Change, the OTC desk, the P2P merchants, for now, the business have been done manually, right? And so right now, they also need to file, electronically. And then they have this problem of how to figure out how to make sure they do their KYC within the confines of the law. They have to figure out how to, record their transactions in real time. And of course, make sure that they prove to the government that what they are doing is within the confines of the law. So, in terms of getting your profit and losses, sometimes you see, a trader doing like over $1 billion in volume. But that is not profit, right? That is just inflow, and that might be outflow. So there's a big disconnect most times in how, these guys are meant to be taxed. And I have the perfect solution for them, which is TradePal AI. So anybody who is doing the business, of, crypto, fiat, and you are, doing global remittances, I believe that our platform is the best for you to engage on and get proper records for your business, right? And you can also prove to the government and law enforcement, just in case you get invitations on maybe there's any financial transaction you've done in the past. Right, so reconciliation of bank accounts and your crypto transactions is very, very, very important to the path that we're heading in this space.
So you're saying that there are some hidden encumbrances that are not visible to the public many times, and that's where you come in.
Of course.
But as we know, crypto is also largely decentralized. Yeah. So how realistic is it for regulators to effectively track these transactions and enforce compliance?
Exactly, that's the same solution I said, right? The government is still trying to figure out how this industry works. And I have to be very honest with you, they don't understand it. So, and what you don't understand, you can't not really manage properly. You can't regulate what you don't understand. So literally, right, we have a lot of people who are making payments, and they also do a lot of transactions globally. They buy Bitcoin and other stable coins, USDT or USDC, and then they do it manually on WhatsApp. Right, and normally, right, you tell me you want to get $1 million worth of USDC or USDC or Bitcoin, and then I'm sending you, the Bitcoin or whatever crypto you want to buy, and then you pay me in fiat. Now, this transaction is done on WhatsApp, and so the government does not understand how this, business transactions work, and that's why TradePower AI exists, because we have built an AI-powered solution on WhatsApp itself to enable these traders, seamlessly carry out their records on your transactions, and then at the end of the day, they're able to file, what is their profit and losses, and that also leads to the tax. Right. Because now the tax is going to be taxed on what you earn after deduction of your expenses.
Right, absolutely.
Exactly.
So I want to get a quick feel on ground for the market when it comes to digital assets, and let's use gold as an example. Would you say there is still a bigger appeal for physical gold, or as a virtual asset or physical tangible security?
Okay, well, for me, gold has been performing well, but not as much as Bitcoin. But I'm going to say that gold is literally going to be one of those assets that would also become very relevant in the next future, but not as much as Bitcoin. But I will hold Bitcoin rather than holding gold. And of course, as I said, right, Bitcoin has done, thousands of % in revenue to the early investors of Bitcoin, right? But gold are still be relevant, and I think that gold is still going to be that very, very important asset that is going to really, really help stabilize a lot of investors who are investing in digital assets. Yeah.
But there is a bigger appeal for virtual assets.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
For known reasons, for the reasons that you stated.
Yeah.
Let's look at Nigeria's SEC now. Requiring crypto exchanges to hold 2 billion naira in paid-up capital. Is this about protecting the investors, or could it shrink competition?
For me, I personally do not agree with 2 billion naira in terms of having that capital requirement. I think it's too expensive for a lot of startups and fintechs who are trying to get into the market. For me, it will be wiser to have at different tiers. So let's say you have 200 million, requirements. You have 500 million. You have 1 billion. You have 2 billion. So when you start your operations, as you grow in revenue and you grow in user base, you grow in traction, you get the higher licenses. Just the way banks have, smaller licenses and bigger licenses. Some microfinance banks have a different license from others. So the bigger banks have bigger licenses and the smaller banks have smaller licenses, and the costs vary. So I think the same thing that we should have in terms of how we should look at capital requirements for crypto fintechs. I think it's not realistic enough. I have to be honest with you. I think it's really going to chase away those who want to come into Nigeria and really get the business registered here.
And would you say this is a general consensus? Well, just for...
Yeah, of course. Like a lot of people in the industry today, and I know some of them are watching me right now, they are not happy with the fact that you need 2 billion naira to get, capital requirements.
It is a staggering amount.
The license, is that?
It is a staggering amount.
Yes, of course.
That being said, there are, certain players that could be able to stomach it.
I think it's very funny.
But that's where you're possibly saying that an unfairness is.
Yes, there's some fairness, because now these people are just even trying to get, and sometimes they even spend about 5, 6, 7 years before hitting their, they're hitting the first profit, right? It took Money Point or OP about 6, 7 years or 5 years to actually hit, break-even point. So it's unrealistic to tell a company who just getting started that you need 2 billion naira as a license to, to operate in Nigeria. I think it's totally unrealistic, and it's really, really, it can be, looked at and then reviewed. And as I said, the tier-based system, having it in 4 different tiers. So the bigger ones who are already existing in other markets who want to come to Nigeria can get that license. And of course, that's why everybody's going to Kenya and Ghana, because these countries are more accommodating. They feel like, okay, you as a business, you want to come to Nigeria, into the country, you're bringing in, jobs, you're bringing in Forex, you're bringing in investment, and that really makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Speaking of that, let's look comparatively at what other markets, you've alluded to Kenya as well. We saw Safaricom's M-Pesa launch Zidi, which now allows users to trade stocks directly from their phones, which, sounds, quite groundbreaking. Would you say this is the future of retail investing, and should Nigeria be moving faster in that direction?
Yes, of course. In Nigeria already, we're far ahead of many African countries as far as I know, right? There's so many other platforms already doing that already. So, Big ups to Kenya. I think they are really leading the way in, making sure that, investor protection is solid. And of course, we have a safer environment in doing business. And I just hope that the Nigerian government, works with service providers like us for us to be able to come to a round table and see how we could help this space progress, and also progress steadily in the next coming years. Because without taxation, of course, there's no legitimacy. So we believe that, yes, crypto can be taxed. That means that whatever I am doing is legal. But while taxing me, make sure you tax me the right way and tax me what I am meant to pay as due.
So something's got to give. Yeah. Looking at the regulatory environment now for 2026, would you say that tighter regulation strengthens the virtual asset market, or does it slow it?
Okay. So it's in two ways, but I'll say this clearly, right? It's either you go hard or you go home, right? If you don't comply, you retire. The businesses who do not comply, who do not do their businesses the right way within the confines of the law, who do not do proper KYC, who do not have proper record keeping. In fact, when you want to get a license, how do you want to prove to the government that you are worth giving a license? Because it's beyond paying the capital requirements, right? It has to do with the compliance. Record keeping is very, very key to any business, especially those in the Forex or in the FX industry or digital asset space. So I think in the next few years, we're going to have much more clearer regulation, but we're going to see a lot of course, shutdowns, because some businesses would need to go through a very, a very stringent process to get licenses. So I think the first step, which we have done at TradePower AI, is giving the infrastructure, the solution, and then, industry can come work with us and we can move things forward. Yeah.
So there is a need to brace up, but overall, there is the silver lining at the end. If you joined us midway, I've been chatting with Femi Adegolu, who is co-founder at TradePower AI. Femi, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Many thanks.